Welcome to the GrowWork Podcast, where we explore all things global IT, hardware, lifecycle management, and the ever-changing world of distributed teams.
Yeah, it's a big one these days.
It is, and today
Yeah.
we're going deep on hardware asset management, or AM, as the cool kids call it.
That's right.
So, we've got folks working from everywhere these days, and
Right.
it feels like every company is kind of scrambling to figure this out.
Absolutely. And it's more than just like an inventory list, right? It's really about how do we squeeze every ounce of value out of all of these investments from the moment we buy them to the moment we say goodbye to them.
So like not just knowing what you have, but really thinking strategically.
Yes.
About how to make the most of it throughout its entire life.
That's right. It's about strategically managing each stage of the device's life so that we can maximize that return on investment.
Okay, I like it. And I think, a lot of times people hear hardware asset management and they think, oh, this is just for these huge corporations with, thousands of devices.
Right.
But I think it's really applicable to even small businesses, especially those with remote teams.
Absolutely. I think it's even more important for smaller businesses and distributed teams because the challenges are even greater, right?
Yeah.
You've got people all over the place, different time zones, different devices. It's a lot to manage.
Yeah. So let's dive into that a little bit. You mentioned the different stages of a device's life. Can you break those down for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So the hardware lifecycle really has 5 key phases.
Okay.
And it starts with procurement. So that's getting the right equipment in the first place.
Procurement.
Then we move to deployment, making sure it's set up correctly and securely for each user, no matter where they are. Then there's maintenance, keeping things running smoothly. Support, ensuring your team has the help they need when issues arise. And finally, disposal, handling those end-of-life devices responsibly and securely.
Okay, so, when you lay it out like that, it seems pretty straightforward, but I think each of those phases has its own set of challenges.
Absolutely.
And nuances, especially when you're talking about a global team.
Yeah. Let's start with procurement, right? Like that sounds boring, but it's so critical because if you don't get the right equipment in the first place,
Yeah.
everything else falls apart.
It's like setting yourself up for failure from day one.
Exactly. And this is where finance and IT really need to be best friends.
Okay. I like that.
Finance can sometimes be seen as the enemy of IT, but when it comes to procurement, they need to be on the same page.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I imagine procurement is more than just saying, okay, I need 100 laptops.
Yeah, it's about really understanding the needs of your users.
Right.
What are they going to be doing with these devices?
Right.
What software do they need?
Right.
What kind of processing power do they need?
Do they need a specific kind of graphics card if they're doing design work or video editing?
Absolutely. All of those considerations need to be factored in.
So it's really about taking a step back and thinking about the big picture.
That's right. It's about strategic planning.
I like it. Okay, so we've gotten through procurement. We've got the right devices.
We've got the shiny new toys.
We've got the shiny new toys. They've arrived. They're sitting in the IT department, ready to be sent out to the team. Now we're talking deployment.
Deployment, yeah.
What are some of the key things to consider in that stage?
So deployment is more than just plug and play, right?
Right.
It's about making sure that the device is configured correctly for the user.
Right.
And that includes things like software installation, security settings, user profiles. All of that needs to be taken care of.
And this is where documentation starts to become really important, right?
Documentation is critical and it's often overlooked.
Because if you don't document those quirky configurations or those specific setups, but then you're in trouble.
Then you're in trouble. Yeah.
Especially when you have remote users.
Exactly.
Because you can't just walk over to their desk and say, hey, what did we do here?
Right. You're relying on them to be able to tell you or to have documented it themselves.
Exactly. And that's not always reliable.
So good documentation during deployment can save you a lot of headaches down the road.
Absolutely. A well-documented deployment process is a thing of beauty.
It is. Okay, so we've procured the devices, we've deployed them. They're out in the wild.
They're out there.
With our team. What's next?
Maintenance, my friend.
Maintenance.
Maintenance is like the unsung hero of the hardware lifecycle.
Right.
It's not glamorous, but it's so important.
It's the oil change.
It is the oil change.
Yeah.
The regular checkup.
Yeah.
That keeps things running smoothly.
Yeah. And it's easy to overlook.
It is.
Because, things are working. Why rock the boat? Right. Why spend the time and money on maintenance when everything seems fine?
Right. But But I think we both know that that's a recipe for disaster down the line.
Absolutely, because small problems can turn into big problems very quickly.
Right.
And a well-maintained device is going to last longer.
Right.
Is going to perform better.
Less downtime.
Less downtime. Happier users.
Happier users, happier IT department.
Everyone wins.
Everyone wins. Okay, so we're talking about, regular software updates.
Yes.
Cleaning out the dust bunnies.
Yes, cleaning the fans.
Making sure everything's running smoothly.
And don't forget about security updates.
Oh, security, yeah.
Security is a huge part of maintenance.
Because those vulnerabilities, they pop up all the time.
All the time, and you need to stay on top of them.
So it's not just about keeping things running, it's about keeping things secure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we've maintained our devices. They're humming along. They're working beautifully.
Hopefully.
but inevitably things start to age. Technology moves so quickly.
Right.
So what happens when our devices start to get a little long in the tooth?
That's when we move into the support phase.
Okay.
And support is all about maximizing the working life of your hardware.
Okay.
So it's about things like software updates, license management, troubleshooting repairs, all of those things that help to keep your devices running as long as possible.
So it's not just about fixing what's broken. It's about extending the life of
Exactly.
its device.
It's about getting the most out of that investment.
And this is where I think having a good relationship with your IT support team
Absolutely.
is crucial.
Whether it's an internal team or an external provider,
Right.
you need to have that trust and that communication.
Because they're the ones who are going to be on the front lines.
Rare.
Dealing with those inevitable issues.
Yes. And a good support team can make all the difference.
Absolutely. Okay, so we've procured the devices, we've deployed them, we've maintained them, we've supported them.
Right.
Now we come to the end of the line.
The end of the road.
The end of the road disposal.
Disposal.
What do we need to think about in that stage?
So disposal is often overlooked,
Okay.
but it's a critical part of the hardware lifecycle. And it's not just about throwing things in the trash.
Right.
There are environmental considerations. There are data security considerations.
Absolutely. And I imagine there are even legal considerations depending on where you are in the world.
Absolutely. Different countries have different regulations around e-waste disposal.
So what are some of the best practices for responsible disposal?
So the first thing is data security.
Okay.
You need to make sure that any sensitive data is completely wiped from the device before you dispose of it.
And are there tools that can help with that?
Yes, there are software tools that can securely erase data.
Okay.
And then you need to consider the environmental impact. So you want to look for certified e-waste recyclers
Right.
who will handle the devices responsibly.
And there's even the potential to resell or donate devices?
Absolutely. If the devices are still in good working order, right, you can resell them, donate them to charities, or even repurpose them within your own organization.
So disposal can actually be an opportunity to give back or to save some money.
Absolutely. It's not just about getting rid of things.
Right.
It's about being responsible and potentially even finding some value in those end-of-life devices.
Okay, so we've covered the 5 stages of the hardware lifecycle: procurement, deployment, maintenance, support, and disposal.
Right.
But I think the key takeaway here is that this isn't just a set of tasks. It's really a strategic approach to managing your IT investments.
It's a mindset.
It's a mindset, and it's something that can benefit companies of all sizes.
Absolutely. Whether you have 10 employees or 10,000.
So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, oh, this sounds great, but I don't even know where to start.
Right.
Where would you recommend that people begin?
I would say the first step is to just take an inventory.
Okay.
Know where it is, know who's using it.
So just get a handle on your current state.
Exactly. That's the foundation.
And then from there, you can start to build out your strategy.
That's right. You can start to think about the other phases of the life cycle and how you want to manage them.
Excellent. Well, I think this is a great place to wrap up part 1 of our deep dive on hardware asset management.
I agree.
We've covered a lot of ground, but we've only scratched the surface.
There's so much more to explore.
There is. So in part 2, we're going to dive deeper into some of the challenges and best practices for managing hardware in a globally distributed world.
I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. So stay tuned.
Great.
We'll be right back.
Welcome back to the deep dive. So last time we really kind of set the stage for understanding, how hardware asset management can really make a difference, especially for companies with teams, spread all over the globe.
Yeah, we talked about that hardware life cycle.
Mm-hmm.
From picking the right tech all the way to saying goodbye responsibly. And we even touched on, some of those budget and security nightmares
Yeah.
that keep IT managers up at night.
Right. And how, even for smaller teams, even remote heavy teams, having a system in place can actually boost productivity and make everyone's lives a little bit easier.
Right, right. And I think we've got listeners out there who are juggling, teams in different countries. They're dealing with, a whole mishmash of devices, and they're probably thinking, okay, this sounds great in theory.
Right.
But is a truly global ham strategy even possible?
It is, but it really requires thinking beyond the basics.
Okay.
Imagine trying to track a laptop that's gone from London to Tokyo to who knows where. Yeah. Visibility becomes your biggest ally.
Okay, so we need a way to see everything everywhere all at once.
Right.
Is that even realistic?
It is with the right technology. Okay. Think about asset management software that's built for the global stage.
Okay.
It's not just about location tracking. It's about handling different languages, currencies, time zones, the whole 9 yards.
So we're not just slapping a barcode on a laptop and calling it a day.
No.
We need a system that can really keep up with a truly mobile workforce.
Absolutely.
So what are some of those must-have features for companies that are, really going global with their teams?
Well, remote management is key.
Okay.
Can you push software updates to a device in Brazil as easily as one in your headquarters?
Right.
Can you troubleshoot problems remotely without hopping on a plane?
Yeah, that sounds like a dream come true.
Right.
For any IT manager.
It is. And, we've talked about the tech, but let's not forget about the human element.
Right.
How do you keep everyone on the same page when your team is scattered across continents?
Yeah, that's huge. And I think, sometimes companies get so focused on the technology that they forget about the people.
Exactly.
Who are actually using it.
Right.
So how do we bridge that gap?
Well, communication is crucial. And I'm not just talking about emails flying back and forth.
Right.
Regular virtual meetings, shared dashboards where everyone can see the status of assets, real-time alerts. It's about creating that sense of a unified IT team, even if everyone's miles apart.
So it's almost like building a virtual IT department.
Yeah.
Where everyone has access to the same information and the ability to collaborate no matter where they are.
Exactly. And don't underestimate the power of clear guidelines.
Okay.
Who's responsible for ordering new devices in each region?
Right.
What's the process for reporting a lost or broken device?
Right.
The more consistent you are, the fewer headaches you'll have.
It's about creating a framework that works regardless of location.
Absolutely.
But let's talk about the D word, documentation.
Ugh.
Is there a way to make this less painful, especially for global teams?
Well, think of documentation as your insurance policy against global IT chaos.
Okay.
Imagine needing to fix a device in Dubai, but the only setup instructions are in French and locked away in a filing cabinet in Paris.
Oh yeah, that's a recipe for disaster.
It is. So we need to make information accessible in multiple languages, ideally digitally.
Okay, so we're talking cloud-based documentation, accessible to everyone who needs it.
Exactly. And remember, good documentation isn't just about troubleshooting.
Right.
It's also about ensuring compliance with local regulations, which can vary wildly from country to country.
Yeah, that adds a whole other layer of complexity to global ham.
It does, but there are ways to make it more manageable. One strategy is to leverage local expertise.
Okay.
Got team members in specific regions.
Right.
Tap into their knowledge of local vendors, regulations, even cultural nuances that might impact your approach.
It's about using that global diversity to your advantage.
Exactly.
I like it, but let's face it, the tech world loves variety.
Yes.
How do you manage a global inventory that probably looks like a United Nations of devices?
That's where standardization comes in.
Okay.
And I know it might seem counterintuitive in our age of personalized everything.
Right.
But limiting the types of devices you use globally can be a game changer.
Okay, but wouldn't that stifle creativity and innovation?
Not necessarily. It's about finding that sweet spot between variety and chaos.
Okay.
Imagine the ease of ordering bulk replacements.
Right.
Having a streamlined set of software to manage troubleshooting becomes a breeze.
So it's about finding those core device types that meet the majority of needs.
Yes.
And then having a clear process for exception.
Exactly. And let's not forget about the power of automation.
Okay.
We've talked about software that can track your assets globally.
Right.
But it can also handle tasks like pushing out software updates, running security scans, even flagging potential issues before they become major headaches.
This is where AI starts to sound less like science fiction.
I know.
And more like an IT manager's best friend.
Right.
But how do we know if all this effort is actually paying off?
That's a great question. It's one thing to talk about the theory of global ham.
Right.
But let's look at some real-world examples to see how this plays out.
Perfect. I love a good story. So let's start with a company that's really nailing this global ham thing.
Okay.
Give us a success story to inspire our listeners.
All right, let's talk about Tech Global, a software company with development teams spread across 3 continents.
Okay.
They were struggling with keeping track of their hardware, ensuring everyone had the latest software updates, and just generally keeping those remote teams feeling supported.
Sounds like a familiar scenario
Right.
for a lot of our listeners. So what was their secret weapon?
They went all in on a cloud-based asset management platform
Okay.
that gave them a real-time view of their global inventory.
Okay.
They could see who have what device, its location, its status, everything.
Okay, so that's visibility check. But how did they tackle that challenge of standardization?
They made the tough decision to limit their laptop models to just 3,
Oh.
ensuring those models could handle the demands of their various teams.
Okay.
They also implemented a strict policy for loaner devices and even used asset tags with QR codes to make check-in and check-out a breeze.
So they combined the right tech with some smart policy changes. What was the result of all this effort?
Their IT support costs plummeted. They saw a significant decrease in lost or stolen devices, and most importantly, their global teams felt more connected and supported than ever.
That's a win all around.
It is.
But let's be realistic, not every ham implementation goes so smoothly.
Right.
What about a company that maybe stumbled a bit along the way?
Okay, let's look at Creative Solutions, a marketing agency that went from a handful of offices to a predominantly remote workforce almost overnight.
Oh?
They initially tried to stick with their old spreadsheet-based system,
Okay.
but it quickly became clear that that wouldn't cut it.
Spreadsheets and global teams rarely mix well.
No, they don't. So what were some of the red flags they started to see?
Yeah.
Inventory data was all over the place. They had no idea what software was running on which devices. And they even had a few security breaches because of outdated software on those remote laptops. It was a mess.
Yikes. That's the stuff of IT nightmares. So how do they turn things around?
Well, they realized they needed dedicated asset management software. And they implemented it in stages, starting with their most critical devices and remote teams.
So they didn't try to boil the ocean all at once.
No, they didn't.
Smart move. What other changes did they make?
They established clear guidelines for who could purchase new hardware, what models were approved, and how to handle repairs or replacements no matter where someone was located.
Okay.
They also made a big push for documentation, creating a central searchable database of device information and support guides.
So they addressed those core challenges of organization and visibility.
They did.
Did they see any positive results from all this effort?
Absolutely. Their security incidents dropped dramatically. Their IT team became much more efficient, and their remote employees felt much more confident knowing they had the right tools and support.
It's a great reminder that even if you stumble out of the gate with the right adjustments, Global Hey Ham can be a success.
Absolutely.
But are there companies out there doing something truly innovative in this space? Something that pushes beyond the standard playbook?
Absolutely. Let me tell you about Green Tech, a company that's not only managing their global hardware efficiently, but doing it in a way that aligns with their commitment to sustainability.
Okay, I'm intrigued. How are they incorporating sustainability into their ham strategy?
They've embraced the concept of a circular economy for their IT assets.
Okay.
They prioritize repairing and refurbishing devices whenever possible, and they've partnered with a certified e-waste recycler to ensure responsible disposal.
So it's not just about tracking devices, it's about considering their entire life cycle
Exactly.
with an eye toward minimizing waste and environmental impact.
Exactly. And here's the thing. Green Tech isn't just doing this because it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Though that's certainly part of it. They found that this approach is actually saving them money and giving them a competitive edge.
It's a win-win-win.
It is.
They're being environmentally responsible, they're saving money, and they're showcasing their values to their customers and employees. That's a powerful combination.
It is, and it highlights the fact that effective hardware asset management isn't just about checking boxes.
Right.
It's about finding creative solutions that align with your company's overall goals and values.
So we've seen companies using tech to create global visibility, implementing standardization to simplify their operations, and even aligning their ham strategy with their sustainability goals. It's pretty inspiring stuff. But where do we go from here?
That's a perfect segue into part 3 of our deep dive. We've laid the groundwork, we've seen real-world examples, and now it's time to explore the future of hardware asset management, especially as technology continues to evolve at a dizzying pace.
I'm already picturing flying drones delivering laptops and AI assistants managing our entire inventory. Join us next time as we explore those possibilities and more on the deep dive. Welcome back to the deep dive for the final part of our journey into hardware asset management.
Yeah, it's been quite a ride.
It has. And over the past 2 episodes, we've gone, from the nuts and bolts of managing IT assets to, real world examples of companies conquering the complexities of the global workforce.
Right. And I think one of the biggest takeaways is that, a solid ham strategy, it's not just about, saving a few bucks.
Right.
It can actually make your team happier and more productive no matter where they are.
And last time we left our listeners with a question that's probably on the minds of a lot of IT leaders.
Yeah.
How do you future-proof your ham strategy in a world where technology seems to change by the minute?
It's a challenge, but it's one that I think is really exciting to tackle. Imagine trying to manage a fleet of self-driving company cars 10 years ago.
Right.
I mean, the future of hardware is just as unpredictable, and we need to be ready for it.
So how do we avoid building a ham strategy that's obsolete before the ink even dries?
Well, I think it starts with a shift in mindset.
Okay.
Gone are the days of setting a static IT plan and sticking to it for 5 years.
Right.
Continuous learning and adaptation are no longer optional. They're essential.
So we're talking about actively seeking out new information, attending conferences, maybe even experimenting with technologies that seem a bit out there.
Exactly. Don't be afraid to pilot new software, test out different approaches, and be that company that others look to for innovation in AM.
So almost like embracing a fail fast, learn faster approach to hardware management.
Exactly.
I like it. But beyond just staying informed, are there specific trends on the horizon that our listeners should be paying attention to?
Absolutely. I mean, we've already talked about, the rise of distributed teams, but the Internet of Things, or IoT, is about to take that to a whole new level.
Okay, so we're all familiar with, smartwatches and fitness trackers, but how does that translate to the world of, hardware asset management for businesses?
Well, imagine a world where every piece of equipment in your office, from printers to coffee machines to the HVAC system, is connected to the internet and generating data.
Right.
Now multiply that by a global workforce with employees using a mix of, company provided and personal devices.
So suddenly we're not just managing laptops and servers.
Yeah.
We're managing an entire network of interconnected devices that are constantly generating data, potentially raising a whole host of security and privacy concerns.
Exactly. Your ham strategy needs to be able to track those devices, secure them, and manage their life cycle, even if they're not, traditional IT assets.
Right.
It's a whole new ball game.
And it sounds like a logistical nightmare.
It can be.
But isn't there a potential upside to all this data?
Oh, absolutely.
Can we use it to our advantage?
That's where the power of data analytics and AI comes in.
Okay.
Imagine having a system that can analyze the data from all those connected devices to predict potential failures, optimize performance, even automate routine maintenance tasks.
So instead of reactively fixing problems, we're proactively preventing them, potentially saving a ton of time and money in the process.
Exactly. And it's not just about efficiency.
Okay.
Imagine using AI to analyze usage patterns and identify opportunities to reduce waste or make more sustainable choices.
So we're talking about a future where AI isn't just helping us manage our hardware, it's helping us make smarter decisions about how we use it and how we minimize its environmental impact.
Exactly.
That's powerful stuff.
It is.
But amidst all this talk about the future, I think it's important to remember that the fundamentals of hardware asset management, they're still as relevant as ever.
Absolutely.
So we're still talking about having a clear inventory, tracking our assets, managing their life cycle, ensuring their security. Those core principles, they're not going away anytime soon.
They're the foundation upon which you can build a future-proof ham strategy.
Right.
So embrace those principles, stay informed about emerging technologies, and be willing to adapt and evolve your approach as the world of hardware continues to change.
It's almost like a call to action for our listeners. Don't be afraid to experiment, to challenge the status quo, and to be the pioneers of a new era of hardware asset management.
That's it.
And remember, the GrowWork platform is here to support you on that journey. We're constantly evolving our solutions to meet the changing needs of businesses with distributed teams, and we're committed to helping you make the most of your hardware investments today and in the future.
Absolutely.
Well, it's been an incredible journey exploring the world of ham with you. We've gone from the basics to the bleeding edge. And, we've seen how a strategic approach to hardware management can truly make a difference for companies of all sizes, especially those navigating the complexities of a global workforce.
I agree. It's been a great conversation.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what is one final thought you want to leave our listeners with?
I would say, don't wait for the future to come to you. You start building your future-proof ham strategy today, and the Grow Work platform is here to help.
Excellent advice. Thank you so much for joining us on the deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep learning, keep adapting, and keep growing.